Welcome back, Ascenders, to the Ascended Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, mysticrainn. So, for this particular episode, I actually want to talk to you all Ascenders about helping and what that looks like when you are deep in your spirituality, when you are activating, when you are just kind of on that spiritual path. I have noticed that when so many people begin this process and they start to wake up, there is this urge almost to go to other people that you feel maybe are not on the same wavelength as you are, or maybe you feel haven't started waking up, or maybe you feel are too deeply stuck in the matrix. There's this urge almost to go back and try to convince these people that they can't see, right? Trying to kind of push these people into an awakening, and then also experiencing a frustration when you can't do so, or when people start looking at you like you are the crazy one. And what I have to say to that, and I recognize that I could sound deeply hypocritical here when I say this sentence, is that in spirituality, it is not your job to help anybody else, right? The best that you can do is assist them. I am not in the business of helping anybody. And if I'm honest, I don't care to help anybody. That's not my job. My job is not to trigger somebody else's ascension. My job is not to walk somebody through the steps of their journey to enlightenment. And if I'm dead honest, I couldn't care less. I sincerely could not care less who wanted to wake up and who didn't want to wake up. However, I did experience the need to try to share all of the information that I was learning in the very beginning of this journey. And I actually had a spiritual teacher back when I was in a tarot class learning how to read tarot many, many moons ago, who told us not to do that. I remember there was another student in the class, and she had said out loud that she was so excited to be learning tarot because she couldn't wait to start helping people. And the teacher that we had stopped dead in her tracks. Her eyes got real wide, and oh my goodness, you would have thought that you were a kid that got your hand stuck in a cookie jar, the way she looked at all of us. And she said, "Let me tell you something. Do not ever believe for a second that you have the ability to help anyone. The best that you can do is assist." And at the time, I really didn't understand what that meant. You know, I was just kind of like, what got her panties in a wad? I didn't really get what, to me, I had interpreted as being negative. And I used to feel like, but if you have all of this insight, or if you have all of these abilities, then surely you're supposed to share them with people in order to help them, right? I'm here to tell you that that's not really how this works. And that's not really how spirituality works either. Your abilities, what you have the ability to perceive, right? Be it just the ability to access your higher self, or your higher wisdom, or maybe you are someone that happens to be clairvoyant, whatever spirituality looks like to you, because it looks different to everybody. That is your journey. That is your journey in this lifetime. That is what your soul decided it wanted to do before it incarnated. It is part of your soul contract to yourself. Just because other people incarnate does not mean other people want to do the same thing as us. For some people and some souls, they cannot accomplish what it is that they want to accomplish while being awake, while being activated. Some people really truly want to experience the human experience from a very matrix perspective. And that's okay too. But the problem is, what happens is that when we take on the responsibility of being there, helping other people, and like helping in like a big, bold word, right? Helping other people to try to activate them, then we stress out. We start taking on way more energy than we need to take on. And it becomes a very stressful experience, almost to the point where you can actually walk away from spirituality because it gets to the point where you're like, well, what is all of this for? Spirituality for me is beautiful. It's been a beautiful experience. It's been an enlightening experience. And I just want to share that with you, but I can't get people to wake up. You going trying to wake other people up in the name of helping those other people in the name of your spirituality is no different than a Jehovah Witness knocking on your door, right? That is why these people also look at you like you're crazy. We talk about some really elevated metaphysical things here, and not everybody is in the position where they can resonate with that. Not everybody wants to resonate with that. The thing with spirituality is that spirituality causes you to start taking accountability for who you are and where you are in life. It creates a situation where you are now responsible for your own healing and healing the trauma that has occurred to you. And in other belief systems, the idea of doing this usually comes from a power that's outside of the self, right? There's a power outside of the self that is responsible for everything that happens to you, and it's also responsible for your salvation. In spirituality, it's the opposite of that. Not everybody is ready to take accountability for the state of their life. And I know that may sound silly, particularly if you have reached this point in your journey when you are on the journey of ascension. It can sound like a situation where you're like, why? But why? Because it's hard. To be spiritual in this sense requires a really massive amount of courage and strength in self to allow yourself to look in the mirror to then heal all of your problems. Not everybody wants to heal their problems because healing is incredibly uncomfortable. Not everybody wants to look at themselves and say, okay, all of these things happened to me in the past and maybe it made my life less fortunate or maybe it made me miserable. But the reason why I'm miserable today is my fault because I won't allow myself to let it go. Nobody wants to say that. That's hard to say. Even when you are on your journey of ascension, admitting those things is still very, 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 very difficult. So you can't help other people, particularly when it comes to waking them up. The best that you can do is assist them. So I like to say that I'm a guide. I'm here to assist you if you want the assistance, but in no way, shape, or form am I going to go seek you out. I have had an agreement with Spirit for a number of years where I've said, Spirit, send them to me. If they want my help, send them to me. And I will assist like that. But I'm not going to go out of my way to assist you. And it's also my job to walk you home. But I'm not going to walk somebody home that doesn't have the ability to ask for directions. Because at the end of the day, that's not my problem. I'm over here fixing self. I'm over here on my own personal journey of ascension. So the best that I can do is guide others that have questions that I happen to have the answer to. But I don't have the answer to everything. And when that happens, I do one of two things. I go and I research the answer, or if it's something that I know is just completely out of my field, I will tell you to go to somebody else. But it's not my job to sit here and help people see the light, to help people find their light. If anything, I'm just here to assist you. I'm here to give you tools to have you go back out and do it for yourself, because that is the true definition of spirituality. It is a journey to your own self-empowerment because it is the journey of self. And I feel like this is really important to talk about when we're dealing with people who are kind of, newly activated. And I want to explain why you feel such a heavy urge and a heavy draw in order to do those things. And the reason why you feel such a heavy urge to help, right? Emphasis on the help is because you're now tapping into that collective consciousness. And the collective consciousness is all about community. It's all about sharing. It's all about kind of group work and group relationships. It's all about the idea of oneness, that I am you, that you are me, that your suffering is my suffering, and my suffering is your suffering. And so naturally, because the collective consciousness is about community, that is what that urge is for you to feel the need to go out and help others. It's It's that innate sense of community that you are now stepping into. And it's this idea of wanting to go and invite those people into community in order to share resources. And in this particular case, most likely knowledge and wisdom. So it's not that there's something wrong, it's that you're tapping into a very natural, innate part of you and part of the self. We also have to consider the fact that that's also a very heart chakra thing. And as you wake up, as you ascend, your heart chakra will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and that in turn will contribute to this urge and this pull to go and help people. But another part of spirituality is just simply the ability to observe. Observation is a big thing. That's where a lot of the knowledge and the wisdom comes from. Sometimes you have to allow yourself to take a step back and observe. Observe other people, observe where they are, and observe where they want to be or where they're trying to be. You see, the one thing that I've learned when it comes to people is that people can say to you, oh, I'm not happy with my life. Oh, I'm miserable. And because you are the light being that you are, you have this pull to help them, right? Because you're operating out of your heart center. But some people don't want to help themselves. Some people like to be in that place. Some people like to feel miserable because it's comfortable, right? Because again, to not feel miserable means that you now have to make active actions and decisions of self to pull yourself out of it. It's comfortable to feel miserable. Pity parties are for you. You are the headliner. And people get comfortable in that space. And this is not a judgment thing. This is simply a thing. We have to understand that while being in the matrix, we're dealing with a profound amount of ego. And the 3D, the third dimension, is ego-based and ego-driven. So it's not a weird thing to consider the fact that some people like to stay and reside in ego-based places because it is comfortable for them. Mostly because an ego-based mental state, emotional state, physical state is actually in direct alignment with the current dimension that we actually physically reside in. And some people want to stay there, and that's okay. This does not mean that these particular people did not choose the path of ascension in a past lifetime. It does not mean that these people will not choose a path of ascension in a future lifetime. People pick and choose what they want to experience before they incarnate, and this is probably one of the experiences that they wanted to incarnate. And so I'm saying this as a PSA, that if you were someone that felt that need, that urge to help, and the frustration of not being able to fulfill that with people, I want you to, one, understand that you are definitely not alone, but two, understand that that you don't have to do that, but that's also not your purpose, right? The journey of enlightenment is a journey of self. And if you wish to share that wisdom to others because you don't mind assisting, then that's okay. If you don't mind assisting the collective, then that's okay. But don't approach it with the idea of help, because the problem is when you start approaching things with the idea of help, you end up sabotaging yourself in the process. You want to be self-empowered. You want to stand in your own power and stand in your own truth. And then if someone is truly interested, you can give them the tools in order to find that path for themselves. But there is no expectation spiritual wise that you must walk somebody home if they don't even want to read a map. At that point, they're just using you for the energy that you have and the light that you possess to share. And so I want you to look at it from a different perspective. So if you feel like your role and your purpose really is to, quote unquote, help, view it more as an assisting. How do I assist you? And then how do I assist you in accessing your own truth and accessing your own power? Because if you really want to know what help is, right, that's what it is. What's that saying? Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll feed himself. It's the same kind of thing. In my practice, I work very hard on sort of disseminating knowledge and allowing people to use that knowledge however they want to use that knowledge, right? Because for me, as a spiritual advisor, my end goal is that you don't need me anymore. That's my end goal. My end goal is not to have you all the time. It's not to have you as a permanent client. My end goal is to give you the tools and the resources you need so that at the end of the day, you no longer need me. Because that's the true journey of ascension. That's enlightenment. It's the journey of self. If it's a journey of self, then you shouldn't need me, right? But I also understand that you may need to ask for directions. And in that case, if you want to read a map, I'm more than happy giving you a map in order to get to your final destination. That's where I step in. But by no means am I going to enable you and personally take you there myself. And if I do take you there myself, it's going to be a situation where I was already headed in that direction anyway. And it's kind of like being in an Uber pool. We're just going to share it until we get there. But I'm not going I'm not going to give you the cheat codes on how to get there, because that's not true enlightenment. That's not true ascension, because that's not the journey of self. How could that be the journey of self if you're not put in a position where you have to discover self? And you can't discover self if somebody has given you the answers to everything. And this is really interesting too, because anybody that communicates with spirit specifically, maybe you're a channel or a psychic or a medium, you'll notice that spirits have a tendency to communicate in riddles. When you're dealing with your guides and when you're dealing with angels, they do not give you everything. They do not give you the details of everything. They communicate to you in riddles. They give you just enough. They give you just enough tools that you need, just enough resources that you need to get you on your way. Because the journey of ascension and enlightenment is the journey of self. And how can you figure out self if someone's told you all the answers? You can't figure out what it is that you want. You can't figure out what it is that you need. You can't figure out what it is that you believe if someone has told you all of it. So the best thing that you can do is receive information and then decide where it belongs to you. Maybe it belongs to in your heart because for you that information resonates and you're like, that's the truth I was looking for. And there's going to be things that you're going to hear along the journey that you do not resonate with at all. And that's okay. There are going to be things that I'm going to say that's going to heavily resonate with you. And there are going to be things that I'm going to say that will not. And if it does not resonate, you do not have to take it with you on your journey of ascension because it is not your truth. We have to understand that everything is infinite. You are infinite. I am infinite. Information is infinite. There are multiple ways to get to an end destination. There are multiple solutions to a problem. Just because you believe something and I don't believe it too does not make it false, because there are multiple solutions to a problem. And just because I may believe something that you do not believe does not mean that what I believe is false, because there are multiple solutions to a problem. We are infinite beings, so there are going to be infinite viewpoints and infinite ways of looking at life, and that's okay. But you're only going to figure out what your way is if you take the journey of self, and you cannot take the journey of self if someone gives you all the answers. So it is not our job as people who live a spiritual life to go out and help people wake up. Not everybody wants to wake up. Not to mention the fact that waking up is truly, truly, truly terrifying. All of a sudden, you have an awareness of things that you don't have an explanation for. All of a sudden, you have an awareness of things that modern day society and pop culture convinces you is scary, is wrong, is evil, and you have all of those thoughts with you, and you're dealing with that while also waking up at the same time, and you don't have an explanation for anything. You don't understand anything that's going on. It takes a show of great strength and great courage in order to live a life like that and be someone that's going to say, okay, even though I'm scared, even though I don't know what's next, even though I don't understand what's on the other side of that door, I'm still going to go. I'm still going to open the door anyway. Do you know that this is incredibly rare? The majority of people will not open that door. They don't want to open that door. They are afraid of that door. And you cannot convince them to not be afraid of the door. If you take it and you look at something that is really simple. For me, I'm afraid of heights. I can't do it, okay? I could never go skydiving. I'm afraid of heights. My legs turn into jello, and that's the end of that. I collapse to the ground. I just can't do it. Someone can say, but it's such a liberating experience. It's such a freeing experience. You don't even feel like you're falling. And while all of that is fantastic, and I believe you, I'm still afraid of heights. And under no circumstances will I get on that plane in order to go up into that sky, in order to jump out of it. And when you're dealing with spirituality, I understand that was a very simple example, but that is very akin to what people would experience. They don't want to know. They don't want to know because it's scary. Ignorance is bliss. There's a reason for that. That is age-old wisdom. And it's not our job to help people wake up. But if people want a map, then it is okay for us to give it to them if we know which direction they are trying to go. Do not allow yourself to feel that it is your duty to deplete all of your energetic reserves for somebody that doesn't want to accept their own energy in the first place. You know, if you think about it from that perspective, it's easy to see how outrageous it can be. All it's going to do is put unnecessary stress on you. You don't have to share the wisdom. There is nothing that requires that you share the wisdom. Now, if you want to disseminate it on the internet because you think it's fun for you, then that's one thing. That's a lot of how I got started. It was just fun for me to talk about. I didn't have anybody to talk about it to in my personal life. Definitely couldn't talk about it to my family. So I started talking about it on the internet because I thought it was fun. And then here I am today. People really resonated with that information, but it wasn't my objective to help anybody. It was just to share information because I understood that for somebody that was already on their journey, that was looking for the information, that it had the ability to assist them. And if they were already seeking assistance, then that is one thing. But if they're not seeking assistance and you go there saying, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you wake up. Don't you see the state of the world right now? Don't you see everything is collapsing? Don't you see that you could have more for yourself? Don't you see that you could do more for yourself? Don't you see that there's more that's out there? And they're looking at you like, what are you talking about? And then you walk away from the conversation feeling really, really upset and really, really sad because you had really, really beautiful intentions in terms of what it was that she was actually trying to accomplish. Your intentions had nothing to do with intimidation. You did it from a place of love because you wanted them to experience the same freedom and liberation and inspiration that you were experiencing as a result of your spirituality. But I'm here to tell you, this journey is not for everyone. This journey is not for the faint of heart. And it's none of our responsibility to help anybody do anything, to wake up, to activate, to upgrade, to nothing. It is not our responsibility. However, if someone would like a map and you know they're going to read it and you just so happen to have another copy, then it is okay to share it with them.